Good evening, everyone. I am Al with Longoria House Dog Training here in Houston, Texas. Thank you so very much for joining my live Q&A tonight. I've been looking forward to this. Really enjoyed doing these. So, hey, if this is your first time watching this, hey, thanks for coming out. If this is your third time, hey, man, I'm blown away that you're here. Let me just kind of give you a little bit about the format of this. I'm going to be talking about a couple of issues or a couple of questions that I received during the week. But if you have any questions that you would like me to answer, feel free at any point to type those in and then I will get to those. But at the beginning of this, I'm kind of a one-man team. What I want to do is I'm going to share this link to this video into an event that I created so that way anybody that is wanting to come and watch this is able to do that. So bear with me a moment as I do that, and then we're going to get right into it, guys. Hey, thanks again for watching. Bear with me. Today's been a pretty interesting day, and it always is. The life of a dog trainer is a pretty fun thing. Get to meet a lot of interesting people, get to meet a lot of really fascinating dogs, and man, it's just such a blessing for me to be able to do what I do for a living. So really, just appreciate you guys that are supporting us in this. So, all right, let me just make sure that took place. And it's getting posted. All right, well, there it is. Let me jump back over to this feed here. And I think, did I actually turn the volume off today? Yes, I did. Well, again, guys, my name is Al Longoria with Longoria House Dog Training. Thanks again so much for watching this Q&A. At any point in this evening that you want to ask a question, please feel free to do so. If you know me, hey, it wouldn't hurt to say hi. I'd really appreciate that. But I want to talk about a couple of things. So this morning, I did talk about this on Instagram, but I think that it's important to talk now. This morning, I actually dealt with a little bit of an issue, something I'm passionate about. You may not be aware, but in the dog training community, it is there's two sides to a story, to breeding dogs and to rescuing dogs and those kinds of things. And so one of the things that I have a very strong belief of is that if you are breeding dogs, that there actually are some ethical standards to breeding those dogs. Now, not to make I don't want to make a long story short, but I'm going to give you just a few of the details that are important. So if you are the person that is going out to purchase a dog from a breeder, there are 4 questions that I want you to ask the breeder. I don't think that the first 3 questions, that one is more important than the other, but I'll say that the last question is probably the least important one. But the answer to the first 3 is really going to give you the most insight into the breeder and help you determine if this is a person that you should be considering purchasing a dog from. So the very first thing that you want to ask anybody that you're considering buying a dog from is what health certifications do the breeding dogs have? So let me give you an example. Many of you guys know that I have German Shepherds. I have Gabby and I have Fritz. So one of the things that we do when we're communicating with breeders is we find out if their hips and elbows, if the parents' hips and elbows have actually passed some kind of test. Now, the standard test in the United States is a test given by the Orthopedic Foundation for Animals. This is where you take your adult dog to a veterinarian, they x-ray the hips and the elbows, and then those x-rays are sent off to the Orthopedic Foundation for Animals, and they give the hips and elbows a score. So I think this is the first question you should ask a breeder. Hey, does the breed have any known health issues? And like in German Shepherds, they have problems with their hips and their elbows. You should definitely get that screened first. So what was question number 1 that you should be asking any breeder if you're considering to buy a dog? What health certifications do the adult dogs have? Okay, so the second thing, you definitely want to know about the temperament of the dog, and you want to know how it relates to a lot of different things. So there are 2 temperament tests that I'm going to recommend to you. One of them I actually administer. It is the American Kennel Club's Canine Good Citizen. It is considered a temperament test, and if a dog has passed that, they show that they can handle 10 different things. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of what are those 10 things. It is in our website, but the breeding dog should have a temperament test. There is another temperament test that we do with our German Shepherds that's internationally recognized, and the abbreviation for that is the BH. If you're involved in the dog sport that I'm in of IPO, the BH is a temperament and an obedience test. It's a little bit more comprehensive than the Canine Good Citizen, but both of those are good for evaluating dogs that you're thinking about purchasing that, hey, they have good hips and elbows and they have good temperament. Okay, so the third thing, especially for those working breeds of dogs, is are the adult dogs participating and earning the titles of the work that they were designed to do. So German Shepherds, okay, there's a lot of different ways that you can look at this. Are they competing in obedience? Are they competing in rally? Are they doing agility? Is the dog doing tracking? Is the dog doing protection work? There's a lot of different things, and there's a lot of debate in this area too. But what I'll tell you is if you're looking at a breeder, the breeding dogs, in my opinion, if it's a working dog, should be doing something to prove the work of the dog. So I think these three together are really going to give you a comprehensive picture of what it is that you should be looking for when you're talking to a breeder about considering a puppy. Because if they don't have those things, then I would recommend running away. Now, one thing that you can do to help differentiate one breeder from another, if you're kind of meeting up two different breeders, is asking the question, what were the goals of breeding these two dogs? Now, if you're talking to a backyard breeder that isn't breeding to improve the breed, they're not going to be able to give you a great answer. And if they definitely say, we're trying to make a little bit of extra money, then you definitely need to run away and not do business with these folks. So very quickly again, what are the things that you should be looking to talk to a breeder about when you're considering purchasing a dog? So number one, health certifications. Number two, do they have a temperament test? Number three, do the breeding dogs have any working titles? And then the fourth one, which can help you differentiate between two really good breeders, is what was the goal of this pairing, of this breeding? Well, hey, I hope that is helpful for you guys. I think it's really important that not only do we support good breeders and that we also support rescue, but yeah, hey, don't support bad rescue groups because they're out there, and we can talk about that another time. And please don't support backyard breeders that are really just doing it for money, okay? All right, well, hey, I see that we got a question up. Hey, Sarah, thanks so much for tuning in tonight. I definitely want to get your question answered. So your question is, how can you help dogs get okay with thunder or fireworks? So Sarah, I'm going to give you some advice, but let me tell you the first thing. If you go to my YouTube channel, one of the videos I did maybe about 3 or 4 months ago it's in virtual reality, so it's a little weird. You're going to have to take your phone, and as you're watching the video, it's interactive. You're going to get to look around my living room as I'm actually discussing how you could get your dog to actually become a little bit better during a thunderstorm. So that video is out there. Please feel free to watch it. If you can't find it for whatever reason, just shoot me a message. But let me give you a couple of things that I think that can be useful. The hard thing about the fireworks is that it just happens so rarely, right? It's only happening like that week right before and after, the holidays. So you need to make it a little bit more regular, but you need to show the dog how to handle the stress of it. It's a stressful thing, and like any of us, we all deal with stress, and so we need to understand, how do I turn the stress off? Okay, so the single easiest thing that I have found to help dogs with this is place training. Place training is where you have an elevated bed. You can see pictures of the elevated beds that we use on Instagram, but you get an elevated bed, you use a leash. I like to use a leash like this. This is a British slip leash, and it goes around the head of your dog. Okay, so what I do is I do training on a daily basis with the dog that has problems with a storm. I'm going to put some pressure on the leash, and then when the dog steps onto the bed, this is when, even when there's no storm, I relax the leash, and then the dog learns how to begin to become calm. It's a little bit more comprehensive than that, but the main thing you're trying to show the dog is when you get onto the bed, that makes things begin to relax. And the other thing you want to show the dog is that when you come off of the bed, when you cross this very definitive boundary, that makes pressure begin to go up. That teaches the dog a mechanism for how to deal with pressure and or stress like fireworks. Okay, that alone isn't going to cut it, but it's going to be a good start to doing this. So first start with your place training. Now, let's say that you're doing your place training, you're getting the dog onto the bed, and then your dog is in the down position on the bed. Here's a really powerful technique. It's going to take you a few weeks to help your dog really understand this, but what I do is as I'm feeding the dog its meal out of my treat pouch, I'm going to be feeding the dog's going to be eating, and then with my opposite hand, I'm going to go from the withers, the shoulder blades of the dog, all the way down to the hips. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to tell the dog, relax, relax, as I'm going through that process. What's going to happen is you're going to be making the dog feel really nice with eating the food. The dog is in the down position, which has that boundary of pressure around it. And now you're beginning to slowly relax the dog. Now, one other thing that you're going to see in the video is that you can actually use essential oils. Now, I've admitted this in the past. I don't know a lot about it. This is something I'm probably going to study up on to give you a little bit better information. But you can use certain essential oils, diffusing them into the atmosphere when you're doing that. All right, the last part of this, you're teaching your dog how to get on its place. You're doing the whole relaxed thing with the dog on a daily basis. Then you're going to use your sound system to begin to play thunder and fireworks sounds, so that way the dog can be like, okay, this is what they're going to ask me to do, because now you're recreating the environment and showing the dog this is the best way forward. Well, hey Sarah, hope that's helpful for you. Now let me know how it goes, or if there's anything else that I can do to help you. Hey Maria, thanks for joining. Charles, thanks so much for joining in tonight. Let's see. Hey Mandy, thanks for joining. Mel, hey man, thanks for joining in tonight. And Mom, I love you. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you so much. So yeah, and hey guys, if any of y'all have any questions, feel free to just jump in, type in your comment, type in your question. I'm more than happy to go over it. But I do have a couple of questions that I received during the week that I just wanted to take the opportunity to answer. All right, so the next question that I have is from a client that I'm currently working with. She has a Rottweiler, and the question that she asked me was, how do I keep my dog out of the plants in the backyard? You know, this is really one of those big picture things, okay? It's obvious that if your dog is over there playing with the plants, that he's just having a lot of fun. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, your dog gets to go over there and just tear up your plants or whatever. But I do think that a measure of some tolerance for the dog is important, okay? But I don't think that it's okay, like I said, for the dog to just go over there, tear up your plants and do whatever. So one of the things that I like to do with my really young puppies when I'm in the backyard is I actually like to have them on leash. Okay, and if they're destroying things, what the puppy is most likely telling me is that, hey, I want to play. So rather than correcting your puppy for actually being in the plants, and I get that if, maybe a little bit later, like telling the dog that, no, you can't do that, is pulling the dog away from the plants and then using something that the dog thoroughly enjoys. So let me give you a couple of options that actually might be useful to getting your dog to leave the plants alone and maybe even pay more attention to you. So y'all, I know y'all seen these, okay? If this is your first time here, maybe you haven't seen this before, but this right here, if I showed you the ones that we use for my dogs, they would look horrible. And the reason is they're just so dirty from how much we play from them. But when I have my dog in the backyard, I love to play interactive games with them. As a matter of fact, before I started this Q&A, about an hour before I did this, I went out and I tried to wear out my dogs, because last week while I was shooting this, they were a little rambunctious, and I didn't necessarily want to stop talking to y'all. So you can have the dog going out after your plants or after whatever it is, and then you're gonna take your toys outside, and I really would just begin to encourage you to teach your dog how to fetch, play with your dog using some kind of toy. I like this. I like these balls and string. I also love the leather rag where you're getting to play tug with your dog. But there's other ones. There's a toy called a Jolly Ball. It's a nice round ball. I like to have those in the backyard, and then I encourage my young puppy to play with those rather than playing with or messing with the plant. Okay, now Let me give you another way. I talked about place training a few minutes ago. I like to take my dog out into the backyard and I like to put them in a place, and then I like to have things that would normally stimulate them to make them lose their minds, okay? And I like to teach them that, hey, you're gonna have to practice settling down in this place and to become calm. And you could actually put that within maybe 2 to 3 feet of the plants, and then every time the dog came off of its place, you would use your leash, you'd put the dog back on, and when your dog showed great composure, then you could feed the dog, or you could release the dog to some play with you. But that's really what I recommend. Now, let's just say that none of that is working. It is okay to use a training tool like a remote collar or a prong collar to tell your dog no. But I just don't think you should be telling your dog no for messing with plants if there hasn't been something better for the dog to do. So hope that's helpful. All right, well, hey, I've got another question here. Let me find that real quick. Let's see, Sarah, fabulous, thanks. I have 3 dogs. Should I buy 3 raised beds? Absolutely. And Sarah, just to kind of follow up on that, each of them already have soft beds. The soft beds are good, but what I really like about the elevated beds is that it draws a definitive boundary of how far they can go. Now, start on the elevated bed and then add the soft bed over the top of that after about a week of training on the place, because that's going to make the bed more comfortable and it's going to help your dog understand a little bit better that this is the calm place to be to get away from the thunder. All right, Maria, you've got a couple of questions. Hey, thanks again for joining in tonight. I'm trying to get Kaiser into the proper heel position. When he sits to my left-hand side, he always sits behind me. I think it's because when he sits, he steps backwards into it instead of dropping his hips. Does that make sense? You know, it makes perfect sense. Hi Gerda, glad you made it. Dogs actually sit in 2 ways, okay? I can't demonstrate it for you here, but if you just watch some dog videos, you're gonna begin to notice that dogs sit 2 ways. So put yourself into the push-up position, okay? And what some dogs do is what Kaiser's doing is they take their front paws and then they push back and they recline back onto their haunches. But then if you put yourself in the push-up position and then you bring your feet forward, okay, that's how some dogs sit. So one's called the rock back sit and one is called the tuck up sit. Now, the tuck up sit. So now with Kaiser, he's a little bit older dog. You can teach him to tuck up because he's doing the rock back. Like, I don't think that it's that important. Go ahead and have him sit behind you, because if you're thinking of, I know where we're headed, that he's trying to learn how to walk on a slack leash. So if he's actually sitting behind you and you're feeding him back there and he has a propensity to pull, that's actually not a bad position. Okay, so it's okay to feed him for being behind you. Now, if you absolutely want to fix it, let me give you a technique, and I'm more than happy to demonstrate it the next time I see you. So here's what you're gonna do. You should have Kaiser right by the wall. Okay, so there's the wall, there's Kaiser, and then there's you. You're actually gonna face the wall and have Kaiser in between you. You're gonna take your front hand and you're gonna have some food to it and you're gonna put it at the dog's nose. And then you're gonna take your back hand and go to the back of his hip, and then you're gonna press forward as you bring the food hand up. And you're gonna make him move in the direction of tucking his hips up and keeping those front legs underneath his chest. As soon as he swings up and you release food, then you'll create the memory. Now, here's the bad news. You're gonna need a ton of reps to fix that. Unless you're thinking about competing with your dog, I wouldn't bother with it. But in competition, the rock back sit is penalized. So you would want to go back and teach your dog the tuck up sit and be very careful about ever rewarding him when he actually practiced the rock back sit. Hey, great question. Thanks so much for asking. Hey, Jessica, thanks for joining in tonight. Sylvia, glad that you could make it. Gerda, okay, I saw you come in. Dustin, thank you for making it in. Hey Denise, I see you have a question. Let me go ahead and go over that right now. So I have a rescue who is dominant and likes to correct and charge at my other dogs. And when he's in the crate, does not stop barking. How do I correct this behavior? It's really a tough one, Denise. I'll tell you, the thing that's going on with this dog is, in my opinion, it's a lot of disrespect towards the humans. And he just doesn't think that the other dogs Well, look, I think I'm making a little bit of an assumption, but if you just bear with me and tolerate what I'm going to, just hear me out. A lot of these dogs, I don't know that your dog necessarily wants to dominate the whole household, but he's gotten away with it and it continues to happen. And it's a tough thing. There are ways to fix this. The biggest way that I know how to fix these kinds of issues is by being prepared. And I'm going to just tell you what, one of the biggest coaching points that I have with any of my clients is that we are generally not prepared to communicate to the dogs in a way that we want. What happens is that the dog, we bring the dogs out of the crate and then we give them all this freedom and then they begin acting poorly and then we use our voice to communicate with them. And as you're probably figuring out, it just doesn't really work all that way. So the first thing that I would do is I would definitely start with some place training with this dog, Denise, okay? And in place training, one of the most important tools that you can have is a leash. I'd like to do you a favor, actually. Denise, if you will send us a private message with your home address, I will mail you and give you one of the leashes that we use to train this skill. Okay, so send me a private message, okay, to our Facebook page, and I'll mail you a free leash to start this training. Now, I want for the next week, I want you to take the leash, I want you to get yourself an elevated bed for your dog, and I want the dog to get all of his meals there. Now, the other thing you're going to do, and you don't have to get coaching, but it's easier, you're going to use the leash and you're going to physically put the dog onto the bed. If at any point, once you've put the dog on, he decides to come off of the bed, and you need to allow the dog to come off the bed. If he decides to come off the bed, which you want, for any reason, like lunging or acting acting poorly towards another dog, you will use the leash that I just showed you, and you will put him back. And I want you in your head to prepare to tell the dog, I am more patient and assertive than you are stubborn. So kind of get that. I am more patient and assertive than you are stubborn. And I want you to insist to that dog that you're going to stay on your place, and the only way that you can get food from any human this week is by eating food on the bed. There are more steps to this. It's a really complex question, and I really appreciate you asking it, but this is step one. I'd love to help you. Let me know what I can do, but start right there. I'll get that leash to you when you send that message. All right. Hey guys, thanks again so much for watching. If I hadn't already said it, I'm totally humbled by everybody that's tuned in tonight to watch this. If there's anything that I can do to help you and your family raise a happy and reliable dog, you name it, and I'm more than happy to help in any way. Any question that you have, if it's about a remote collar, if it's about a prong collar, it's about how to use a clicker, it's about what harness should I use for my dog, or how do I play effectively with my dog. Ask your questions. If I don't know the answer, I'll flat out tell you, but I have a feeling that I probably have seen it in the last decade that I've been working dogs. Love to get you the help that you need. I do want to mention one thing that I'd like to ask you guys. If you're getting any value out of this, and I really hope that you are, there's two things that I would ask you to do. One thing is to share this video with your friends. If you look down below, you're going to see that share button down there. Hit the share button. Let your friends know that, hey, there's maybe something that will help you and your dog's relationship. It's totally free, but I would love it and I'd be honored if you would share it with your friends. Now, the other thing I'd like you to do is, if you want to receive or sign up for our newsletter, I actually want to give away another pair of, grab the wrong one, another pair of these balls. So what I did last week, and I'm going to do the same thing for the folks watching tonight, if you go to my website right now, which is longoriahouse.com, okay? Hey, if anybody that knows me, okay, anybody that's my friend, why don't you type in my website on there, longoriahouse.com, for the benefit of everybody else. But if you go to my website, and if you're either at the top menu, or if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, then you can see the sign up for the newsletter. Now, anybody that signs up for the newsletter tonight, I will pick one winner, and I will send you a pair of these toys that I use for my own dogs, just for doing so. Hey, Gerda, thanks so much for putting that up there. So again, you can go to my website, you can sign up for our newsletter, and I will give you this pair of balls that we use to train with our dogs. All right, so let me kind of scroll back, kind of take a look. All right, Denise said, love your answer. Thank you. We'll work on this first step. Yeah, get started on it right away. Hand feeding your dog is going to be one of the big things. All right. Hey, JoJo, thanks so much for joining us tonight. It said, you're saying my young female Rottweiler is sometimes, JoJo, I'm not quite sure I can answer the question right. Is it that my Rottweiler is sometimes lunging? Oh, lunges at dogs when walking on leash. So it looks like that she's a little unpredictable. I'll tell you this, JoJo, that there's 3 general pieces of knowledge that I want to give every dog when it comes to leash walking. Let me give you the first 2 where you should start, and then I'm going to give you the one that's going to also help you be very clear with your dog what the walk is about. In your own head, JoJo, what I want you to think about the next time that you're on a walk is you're not on a racetrack, you're not trying to start and finish, but I actually want you to think that you're on a dance floor. And that when you put yourself in that dance floor mentality, what that means is it's all about the dog following your lead. If you go to the right, the dog goes to the right. If you go to the left, the dog goes to the left. If you turn around, the dog turns around. And if you stop, the dog stops with you. So first thing I want you to do is prepare yourself mentally by saying, I'm on the dance floor. Now let me give you the 3 pieces of knowledge that I want to give every dog. What happens at the end of the leash? That's the one that's gonna get rid of the lunging. But you also need to show the dog what happens when you're on my left-hand side. That's where the majority of the dancing is going to happen. And then what happens when you're sitting by my left-hand side? What I have found and discovered after years of training with folks is that we really are not spending enough time with the dogs on a daily basis, showing them the value of the left-hand side. Let me give you a very practical skill that you can begin to do tonight. I want you to find a hallway in your home where you have maybe about 5 or 6 foot of bare wall. I want you to get a treat pouch or some food, okay? If you don't have a treat pouch, I want you to put the food into your hand and basically kind of like across your abdomen. It'll be a little hard for me to show you here, but I want you to put the food about right here. You're going to hold the food in your hand, and I want you to get your dog on your left. Your dog's body should not be in front of you. You're going to take that food out of your hand, and you're going to feed it to the dog while it's on your left. It's very important that as you begin to create repetitions of this, that when you have that dog sandwiched against that wall, and that you're standing and there's a gap between you and the dog, that you do not turn to face the dog, that you give the food out of your left hand. It's actually kind of a challenging thing to do. I do have some videos on my Instagram page and some pictures where you can see dogs actually doing that. But before you actually deal with the lunging, I want you to establish over the next week that, hey, whatever your Rottweiler, telling your Rottweiler that the most important place for you to be is on my left-hand side, because that's where all your food is going to come from for the next week. All right, so the tool that makes it easiest for folks to tell their dog that they're not allowed to lunge is the prong collar. I think the prong collar is a fantastic tool for this. I've used it with a lot of success, but here's what I've noticed and also watching folks. When they're using the prong collar, whenever they see that dog and they're anticipating their dog acting very badly, everybody tightens up on the leash, okay, preventing their dog from actually beginning to lunge. So, and I understand how difficult that is, I really do. One of the things I want you to do is I want you to actually let your dog lunge with the other dog at a safe distance, and that your leash is completely slack, that you only have a little bit of leash around your hand. What's gonna happen, okay, is that when your dog lunges, your dog's gonna see the other dog, and then your dog's gonna decide, I'm gonna lunge. When it lunges, and it's on a 5 or 6 foot line, and then the prong collar ends up doing its job, your dog will feel discomfort. That emotion, contrary to what others may tell you, that emotion is going to tell your dog, do not repeat that behavior. However, if you grab the leash too early and your dog tries to lunge and it doesn't have any space for the collar to actually work, your dog's brain cannot make the emotion to tell it that lunging when I see another dog is a bad idea. Now, I do offer a class that is just for that. If you go to our website, okay, it's called the Foundation Leash class. I can teach you the steps right here, but essentially what you're doing again, Jojo, is showing the dog what happened, that there's a lot of reward for being by my side, but if you decide to lunge, that, hey, the collar is going to interact and it's going to be uncomfortable, and then you tell the dog, which of those two things do you want to happen? And we commonly see transformations for the dog, and it actually can happen pretty quickly. Hey, thanks so much for the question. All right, so let's take a look. Hey, Sarah. Sarah, thanks so much for signing up for the newsletter. Okay, so Sarah, you had another question. Hey, what do you use if your dog is not treat or food or toy motivated? It's interesting to me when I look at this, and I run into those dogs. Here's the thing that we're always looking at. I'm looking at what's called the law of diminishing returns. So here's what it is. If you are super, super rich, let's say that you're a multimillionaire and you're walking down the sidewalk downtown Houston. If you see a dime on the sidewalk and you're a multimillionaire, you're probably not going to bend down to pick it up because there's better things to do. Maybe you're on your way to an important meeting. And what that's saying is that you're very rich in things. So one of the things that I begin to pattern in dogs that don't have a lot of food or toy motivation is, one, I begin to withhold food, but then I also make the food incredibly valuable, and I only make it valuable once a day. There's a lot of different tactics at this, but the main thing that you want to show the dog is that all the things that you fundamentally enjoy, that you can't get those things unless you actually interact through me. So there's a couple of things that I do. Now, I'm going to give you maybe a little thing that you can do here. One thing that I recommend is I'd like for you to crate your dog right before dinner time, okay? And I'd like the crate to actually be close to your kitchen as you're doing this. And now cook up your family's favorite thing, whatever it is, and I want everybody to sit at the table and really enjoy their meal, and enjoy it, and while the dog is in the crate. You crate the dog before, you eat dinner, and then I want you to bring the dog out. Now, maybe the first time you do this, you do something novel, okay? But you could use your dog's food as well. You come out and you offer your dog its food. If the dog is interested in the food after what it experienced, then I want you to use your food there to train the dog, okay? Your dog will have drive for food. The one mistake that you can make that really hurts food drive and you being able to use it to train your dog is if it stays out all day. Just think about this. If you're putting the food down on the ground and it stays there, the humidity is attacking your kibble and the flavor profile is just taking a dive. So make sure that there's not any free food available, and then also make sure that your dog spends 30 minutes in the crate before any kind of training session, because that will begin to make the dog be like, I want to interact with the humans and I want the things that they want. There is one more piece of advice I'll give you. There is a dog food that we use that has a lot of odor and it tends to have a lot of value for dogs. And the name of that dog food is Red Barn. Hey, anybody that knows what that is, would somebody mind putting up a link to Amazon for the Red Barn beef roll? Really would appreciate that. But that is a food that we use that dogs absolutely go crazy for. Now, I'm not super excited about the nutrition that is in that food, but I'll tell you what, dogs really enjoy that food. So hey, hope that helps. If there's anything else that we can do to help get some motivation in your dog, let me know. I'd be happy to talk about it. Thanks very much, Dustin, for putting that up. Okay, let's take a look at the next question. Okay, hey Al, quick question. What is the best approach to get Vulcan to stop licking the bed until it's dressed? It's an anxiety thing with him. This goes back to the pack drive thing. So Dustin and I are working with his dog Vulcan, and Vulcan has very high pack drive. That means that he has a very intense need to be together with his pack, and Dustin is the head of the pack, and so anytime that Vulcan gets separated, it begins to produce anxiety. The thing is, man, is this is going to be a lot of practice at teaching him how to be calm. But the other thing, you can direct the licking in a direction. So I would recommend probably going and getting a Kong, okay, and putting stuff inside of there. So that way, anytime that you leave the dog, that you're practicing this and it's not necessarily in a session, that you're giving him something to fixate on that is healthy for him. Another way that you could go, Dustin, is giving him a bully stick, and in those times that you're going to leave him and extend it down, so that way his mindset will be not so much in pack drive, but it'll be a little bit more in prey drive, and he's understanding that, hey, I'm in consuming, it's good for me to be in the bed, and he can kind of forget about his pack drive for a little bit, and that's what I've started. But it is going to have to be a habitual thing that you do with the dog, and you're looking at the work of months, not necessarily, you know, a session or two to be able to change that part, because it really, fundamentally, and that is who the dog is. All right. Hey, Jojo, you're very welcome. I really hope that helps. And if I can do anything else, let me know, okay? All right. So how do you calm your dog down quickly? Oh, man. Thank you, Andrew. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for joining in tonight. But I'm going to give you the number one thing that I do to calm a dog quickly. I don't talk. Yep. That is my number one secret to getting a dog to calm quickly. I just, you know, I'm just gonna say what's on my mind. I just shut up. It's just so funny to me to, you know, to after years of doing this, when I see, you know, excited dogs come out and all the excited talking that people are doing. And look, I get it because I used to be that guy, so I'm not judging. I'm just saying, like, it's so funny that now I can be on the other side. And I really see the power of our voice, you know. I think a lot of people's dogs maybe don't understand their voice the way that they assume that they do. But I know, like with untrained dogs, when you're trying to calm a dog quickly, if you start quickly adding your voice and your dog is looking at everything but you, and then you get frustrated and the tone of your voice begins to grow and grow and grow, it's just a great way to escalate the situation, you know, and to bring more drive into the moment. But the second fastest way that I calm a dog is really with my presence. Big body language is important. So, you know, I like to be big when I'm in front of dogs, and that actually has a calming effect, okay? But the other thing is my leash. Now, most people, I'm not like most people, I don't use a regular, Gabby, come here. For most people, what they do with their dogs from the get-go is that they use this collar right here. So they're going to use this collar right here. And I don't actually start on this because this collar, it's a 1/2 inch. It's going to promote a lot of pulling in dogs. So I actually start a dog a lot of times on a slip leash. Gabby, who's here right beside me, I started her on a martingale. Now, if I'm using a martingale, when the dog begins to get a little bit excited, one, I stop talking, and then two, I put pressure down the line, and then as I feel them calm, you're going to feel the muscles of the dog relax, then I'm going to let the leash down. And then if the dog comes back up, then the leash is going to tighten with it, and then when the dog comes down, then the leash is going to come down with it. And as you begin to show those two things to the dog, that I'm not going to talk, and that you're going to and that I'm going to use pressure to differentiate when you're excited and when you're calm, it's actually going to work really, really well. It's probably when I start working with a new dog that I've never met, it's the first thing that I do to calm the dog. And the first thing I tell people is, please don't talk to your dog, don't use their name, don't pet them, don't do anything, just be quiet, and it'll go a long way. Well, hey, hope that's helpful for you. Thanks so much for the question, man. What is a safe way to introduce my dog with another dog? So this is a pretty big question. So Donna, is the question inside of your home or on a walk? And one thing that I'll tell you, like I don't know your dog, but one thing that I would ask everybody here to consider is that if your dog, if you're wanting to introduce a dog to another dog, the first thing you need to ask yourself is does my dog want to know other dogs? Does he want to play with them? And is that other dog also interested in playing and knowing other dogs? If the answer to that is yes, then probably the best way that I like to introduce two dogs is by both owners walking together. Each dog is walking with its owner, and the dogs are next to each other. I think that's a fabulous way to introduce dogs to one another out in public. Okay, but the other way that I like to introduce dogs is through the place command. So if dogs come into my home that I don't know, I'll put all my dogs in their places, and then the new dog gets to learn how to become calm in my presence and in the presence of the other dogs. And then my other dogs know how to do that, so it begins to work for them. and then the dynamic gets calm. So then when I bring all of the energy down, like everybody's nice and calm, they've decided that, hey, it's best to listen to the humans, then I can release them, and then I can begin to monitor the energy. But if they're already all kind of driven and up, and then I say, oh, let's see how this goes, disaster could be down the corner, right around the corner. Let me just tell you one thing that I've really become a believer in, and it's something I recently learned. Excitement is the precursor to all bad behaviors. So if you see that the other dog is in an excited state and your dog is in an excited state, and both dogs are not calm, if you introduce them, bad things can happen. They could start playing, which is good, but they could also start fighting. So for me, when they're calm, there's really no chance that the dogs are going to get into a fight because they're in a calm state of mind and they understand that they have to respect the humans. Hey, hope that's helpful for you. All right, so licking one's hand. Okay, Zena, you said, and or licking one's hands or arms when outside. It's just it's kind of like a nervous tick. Like one thing that I do when I'm at church is my foot is just kind of bobbing and weaving the entire time that I'm there. So it's a nervous behavior. So you can eliminate it. You can eliminate it by not allowing it to happen. There's a couple ways to not allow it to happen. One way that you can go is having a muzzle on the dog, and that blocks it from doing that. But I kind of think that's a little bit overboard. So I wouldn't necessarily do that. But then, I just think that giving the dog focus in other areas, that, hey, maybe you're out playing with the ball and they're going to have to focus on you. Those are better ways to do it. But sometimes you just have to ask yourself, is this licking, is it worth me solving the problem? If it's part of the dog and it's not really getting in the way of anything, then I say just let the dog be. So, all right, Dustin said, he only licks the bed when we are going to sleep, but he does it until the blanket is soaked. It is one of those nervous behaviors, Dustin, and I can see that. Perhaps giving him something different to lick on that will replace the blanket. But, we all kind of do things. I think some humans, we drool in our sleep and others snore and stuff like that. So I think that it's perfectly okay for us to do. Okay, hey, hold on just a second. Yes, what's up? Okay. Okay, Andrew had another, okay, cool. Hey, my mom is handing me questions. So Andrew, my mom just kind of saved you. Here, you can hand those to me. Here.
Okay, and Bob is watching.
Okay, great. So Andrew, I'm going to get back to your question. Sorry that I missed it. Hey, Andrew, if you don't mind, if you're watching this, go ahead and repost your questions so I don't miss it, okay? I'm going to take a little break. Hey, again, guys, thanks so much for spending your evening with me. I really, really appreciate you. Really appreciate you coming in tonight. I hope this has been useful. Hey, if you can do anything for me, if this is bringing you any value whatsoever, go down there to the corner where it says share and share this with your friends. You don't know what it means to me for you to share this with your friends. And, maybe I can offer them some advice that's going to give them some help. So, hey, so thankful for you guys that are tuning in this evening. All right, let's go back. Let me kind of scroll through here and kind of see. Oh, hey, Andrew, I do see your question now. Hey, Rob, how you doing tonight, man? Glad that you're here. Okay, so Andrew's question was how to train German Shepherds around a baby. Oh, maybe I haven't said it yet, but I think I have. But I'm just gonna show you this, Andrew. How do you train any dog to be around a baby? It's about having a calm lifestyle. That's it. Can you teach your dog how to be calm around you? I saw this and I heard this from a client the other day. He said, we have very, very calm lives with our dogs. They never had any people over. But then anytime that people came over, then the dog said, well, I'm going to decide when I'm going to become calm. And I'm actually going to tell the humans when I don't like how they're acting and make them become calm. And that actually resulted in, the dog bite that I got last week, if you guys remember that. Anyway, I'm not going to go over and rehash that. But here's the thing, man. I think the best way to introduce a dog to a baby, okay, is, through some of the obedience skills that the dog is working. The place command is a life skill for the dog where the dog learns how to become calm. And then you begin to show the dog how to do that in various places around your home, whether it's by the front door, whether it's in your office, your bedroom, your den, your kitchen, your living room, your backyard, if it's at Starbucks, if you're out getting a burrito, whatever it is. wherever you are, I think it's important that your dog understand that when you give this command, that it becomes their responsibility to chill out. And that chilling out is a good thing. Now, I don't think that you should always give your dog food when you're doing this. I think that's an important part of training, using their food to coach this. But I think at a certain point in time that you need to tell your dog to lie down, saying that we're going to expect you to lie down, and any excitement that you produce right now, that we're going to continue to ask you to stay in that down. And to become calm. And just practicing that lifestyle is the single best way that I know of how to introduce a dog to a baby. Now, for sure, on the human side, please, please, please do not let your children climb over your dog, okay? Some dogs just do not have great tolerance for people climbing over them. Some dogs do, but I just don't know that it's worth the risk, man. So please do not let your young children come and grab on the face of the dog, pull on its ears, pull on its tail, because in our society, I'm just going to tell you, in our society, if children do that and their parents do that, we blame the dog. And I'm just going to tell you, I don't agree with that. I don't think it's the dog's fault if a child gets bit. I don't want the child getting bit, don't get me wrong. But if you allow your children to climb over dogs and they get bit, please do not allow that to happen. Because what we do in our society, just really think about it, if a dog bites a child where the dog is trying to defend itself, then we kill those dogs. So I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with that. So it's just important to advocate for safe space for the dog and for the children. And then, like, you should know your dog. What does your dog tolerate? Can your dog handle a lot of pressure? Can it nat? Is it shy? Is it timid? Don't let children climb over your dog. Just like, you know, it's just common sense to me. But yes, great question right there, man. All right, let's take a look and see. All right, well, I've got a couple more. Let's see how we're doing on time. All right, so we've got about 15 minutes left. I do want to mention to anybody that's watching right now, we do have a little bit of a giveaway that's going on tonight. So for those of you guys that have not signed up for our newsletter, you can sign up for our newsletter, and one lucky individual tonight is going to win this pair of balls right here. We're going to send those out to you guys. So anybody that signs up for our newsletter this evening is going to receive a pair of these. Do you already have this? Give it away to a friend, maybe. The easiest way that you can sign up for a newsletter is to go to our website, which is longoriahouse.com. House is spelled the German way, H-A-U-S, longoriahouse.com. And at the very top, you're going to see a menu that says newsletter. Or if you're on a mobile device, if you happen to be on an iPhone or an Android, scroll all the way down to the bottom. Scroll all the way down to the bottom and you'll see the sign up for the newsletter. And like I said, anybody that signs up tonight, I will take a look and I'm going to pick one person at random, and then you will get a pair of those free balls. So hey guys, thanks again so much for watching. We appreciate you. I do have one other thing that I wanted to talk about before we go. And hey, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer those. As we begin to wrap up this evening. Hey Kim, thanks so much for joining in tonight. Appreciate that you're here. So, you know, I received an email today, and we get to see a lot of interesting things from people when they're emailing us. And this particular individual is having some issues with the dog, and I just want to talk about what was in the email and just a couple of thoughts that I have. So. The gentleman, from the context of the email, I could tell was having a hard time with his dog, and he said the dog at this point has one of three options. Option number one was learn to live in this house without peeing. Option number two, adapt to being an outside dog the rest of its life. Or option number three, get out of this house and go to a shelter. You know, I just take a look at emails like that, and we do routinely get them. And I just want to let you know, and everybody that's watching this probably knows this, but maybe this is for you. Your dog needs a lot of grace, and it needs a lot of mercy, okay? And what I mean by that is that your dog comes into this world, it's taken away from its family, and it's asked to join ours. And I think very quickly sometimes we begin to put expectations on our dogs, thinking that, hey, just because they're so mobile and that they're responsible, that they really understand what it is that we're asking them to do. And I think just drawing kind of deadlines for dogs like that you have one of three options and you better figure it out, and doing that to a puppy is incredibly unrealistic to put that onto any dog. And so if you're needing help with potty training, if you're needing help, with anything with your dog, this is what we're here for. I'm happy to help you in any way that I can, to create content, to make videos, to write blog posts, whatever it is that we have to do to help you raise happy and reliable dogs. But I guess really what I want to say is have mercy and grace for your dogs. I do believe that once you've taught a dog that they are responsible, but even if I say that 1,000 times in my head, I still feel that I'm responsible for my dog's actions one way or another, because they are a product of my training. They're a product of the environment that I'm in and the way that I live with them and what I do. So just be fair to your dogs when you're training with them. It's okay to tell your dog no and to hold it accountable for certain things, but I think that us focusing more on how to have them live well, teaching them how to be good at the things, and delighting them and surprising them in ways that they couldn't have imagined. And I don't mean giving them stuff, I mean earning it, that they do something and then they realize that something wonderful can happen because of that. I just think that's the way to go. This is, in my opinion, it's the single greatest creature that we've ever had. They're so faithful to us. Yeah, they've got their problems, man, but don't we have our problems, okay? So I just think that it's so good to share grace and mercy and care with our dogs. And please hold them accountable, but stay focused on being clear and setting them up for success and speaking to them in a way that they can relate, and then using your voice appropriately. And if you need help with that, again, like I said, I'm happy to help you. Hey, I'm so honored for everybody that's watching this tonight. It really means a lot to me, again, that you're watching it, and you've given me this fantastic career where I get to do, what I love. So I do want to mention one other thing, because I had a couple of things on my list here. I've checked off most of them. Hey, and at the beginning, if you didn't really watch this, at the beginning, I really talked about some valuable information. If you or a friend are considering buying a dog from a breeder, then I really want you to go back and maybe watch the first 5 minutes of this, because there's so much there about questions that you can ask about how to get a quality dog, and it can spare you some heartache down the road. And I'm just going to tell you, I'm all too familiar with that heartache when you don't know how to ask the right questions. So one more thing that I want to cover. So we do have that newsletter giveaway where you can win the balls. I'm not going to mention that again, but if you're getting our newsletter, okay, one of the things that we're doing is we have a contest on Instagram. Now, yes, I know you're on Facebook, but if you're on Instagram, if you go to our newsletter, one of the articles in our newsletter is a contest that we're doing. And in that contest, if you just click the link that's in the newsletter, you will then send me an email, and you'll get to send me your best picture of your dog. So then what I do, if you're signed up for a newsletter, then what I do is I take all those pictures, I put them up at about 8 o'clock on Saturday night, and they stay up until Monday night at 8 p.m. And whichever picture gets the most likes on Instagram, that's submitted to me, then they get to win a bag of dog food. But you see this bag right here? This is a 12-ounce bag. You get to win the 25, the 30, the 40-pound bag. I've already bought 2 bags. Both of them were close to $100, and I want to give you one. So sign up for our newsletter. If you haven't already gotten our newsletter, I did make a post earlier today where you can find the newsletter that came out this past Tuesday. You can subscribe there. And you can also see the newsletter on the link that I provided on my Facebook page. And then send me the email with a picture of your dog, and maybe you'll win a $100 bag of dog food, or whatever it is that you want your dog to do. I will spend $100 if your dog wins our photo contest. Well, guys, hey, I've covered everything. That I've got for the evening. I do want to give you a couple seconds, so I'm going to take a sip of water. I'm going to think about everything that I said, but if anybody has any more questions, please type those up now. But otherwise, you see that little heart down there? You see that heart? Maybe just smash that a couple of times and let us know that you really enjoyed this content tonight. Well, guys, thanks again so very much for watching this. We're going to continue to do these every Wednesday. If there's ever anything that I can do, I'd appreciate it. But hey, one last time, hit that share button. This video will be available on our wall later on today. And we're also going to upload it to YouTube so you can go back and watch it. And we're going to break down the details so you know, like, hey, when did he talk about this? Well, again, guys, thanks so much. We love y'all. Have a great evening and good night.